All right, let's briefly go over the assignment for round 2P for those of you who didn't win. Here we go. In the low end, Baldwin had a huge disparity between actual and potential sales. What did the team, miss out on in terms of A, missed unit sales? Okay, and let me give you some hints on that. So again, we can approximate what it is if we scroll down to that low end. Takes a little bit, sorry, there's traditional. So here's the low end. If we take a look at that, we know that it was about 15% that Baldwin missed out on, but let's come down here to the actual, the numbers. So in the low end, again, we have, it's the second column here, from the left, I guess. So we had the potential of 30.5 and an actual of 15.3. So that's kind of a percentage. Well, you should be able to take a look at the demand and maybe do some calculations then that will tell you what it missed out on in unit sales based on the demand for round 2. Okay. Then you'd look at the selling prices, okay, and that would allow you to calculate what it missed out on in dollar sales, right? If you know the unit, if you can calculate what the units were that it missed out on, then you can calculate what the sales were. Now, one word of caution, okay, to get a perfect score on this, you have to be a little bit, put a little of your Sherlock Holmes hat on and understand that some of the products that it missed out on selling were actual low-end products, but it's telling you that it could have also sold some traditional products in the low end. And so in terms of the unit sales, overall unit sales, it won't really change that calculation. You could break it down by low-end traditional ones that it could have sold, but in terms of the sales, the dollar sales, okay, that may require that you break that down in order to get a perfect score. Okay. Question 2 is, what main factors contributed to factors contributed to Baldwin's contribution margin? Let me tell you in general. Okay, in general, there's only 2 things that can affect the contribution margin, right? Variable costs, okay, and obviously to get high contribution margin, you want your variable cost to be low, okay, and 2 is price, okay? The higher the price, probably the higher the contribution margin, and vice versa. Now, that's general, and it may be that that's all the answer is, okay? But I want you to kind of look at that and see, are there some things otherwise that are not otherwise, but things within that, if you break it down, that contributed. Maybe not. Yeah, just take a look and see. Again, what's the main factor or factors? 3, Ferris sold $7.5 million of stock. How many shares did that equal? Yeah, let's go take a look again. Oops. Golly, hit the right button there. Okay, so we scroll up and we go to the cash flow. That's where I see the $7.5 million. Okay, and maybe I'll get there eventually. Right up here in the cash flow. Okay, here we go. Sale of common stock, $7.5 million. Okay, so that's right there. These are in millions and or in thousands. I'm sorry. So $7.5 million in the sale of common stock. Okay, how many shares did that amount to? And I kind of give you a hint right in the assignment. And I say, well, there's 2 ways to calculate it. The easiest is probably just to go back at the shares that they had outstanding last year. Ooh, this may be not right though. I may have to change this. I was going to say take a look at last year's shares outstanding, and then I got to change that, because I was going to say you could take a look at last year's outstanding, and then I'll tell you what the answer would have been here, because I got to change this. But last year's outstanding, and then look at this year's outstanding, and the difference would be the increase in shares. But remember that That's why I got to change it, that Team Ferris both sold and bought back. So now we got to do this the hard way. I'm sorry. I'm going to say, I'm going to get rid of this. Okay. And how many shares did that equal? So now there's only one way to calculate that, the 7.5 million. Okay. And that is, go to your guide and it tells you when you sell stock, you sell it at, I believe it's the beginning of the year price. So you might have to go back and see what Ferris is. Again, look at the guide. I'm pretty sure it's the beginning of the year price, not end of the year price. But you go back to the guide for the beginning, or go back to the guide and see if it's the beginning of year 2. Then you got a stock price and you got 7.5 million. The calculation there then simply division, right? And that's how much that would equal. Okay, you could test that by also taking away the $1 million and see if that net is what the actual increase was in shares. I'm making that too confusing. I'm sorry. But go to your guide. It tells you what that stock was, or what it was issued at, what price it was issued at, and they issued 7.5 million. So that should be pretty simple division still. Maybe not as easy as the other way I thought, but we couldn't do that because of the net, because they actually also bought back some stock. Okay, 4. Sorry, about 3, I got that a little more confusing than I wanted to be. 4, what will the total industry demand be for the traditional segment next round? It tells you what, if you look at these, right, it tells you what the industry demand is for this year, and it tells you what the growth rate is. And that's all I'm looking at is the total industry demand, not your own teams, but the total industry unit demand. And it tells you what next year's segment growth rate is going to be. Should be pretty simple calculation from there. So there you have it, the assignment for round 2P. Thanks and good luck.